of all, thank you so much for coming. And I would like also to thank the organization for inviting me for this moderation. I'm really happy to be here and to make an informal conversation with my colleague and friend, the collector Carlos Roque. First of all, I would like to say that we have another guest, but unfortunately, due to unexpected cold, he cannot be here with us. So this conversation will be only between me and Carlos about how to collect challenge and strategies, and to introduce this topic. For which I am the moderator, which means that I'm here only to make questions, to make some I don't know, perhaps theoretical frame, or to give some guidelines, and then we will go through the points. I have to say that I'm an art historian. Just to present myself, I'm an art historian and I'm a researcher, and I've been researching for this topic for a long time, specifically Portuguese collectors. That's what I've been working on for almost 2 decades now. And in specific, I have been studying the private collectors, which is a very challenging topic to make research, because this means that we are going to enter in the privacy of collectors. It's not an easy topic to go into, exactly because of that feature. Means that open the door of a house, open the door of the intimacy that the collector develops with their artwork. So it's been really challenging to make this path through the years. And but one thing that is really astonishing for who thinks and reflects on the collecting practice is to see how this activity is so distinct from each another. You cannot find two collectors equal, although there is, of course, features that are common in a lot of collectors. One of the major features is, of course, the typology of the collectors, and here we are discussing a collection of contemporary art, specifically Portuguese art. So this is a feature that you can find in several collectors, but although these features, there is also the specificities that make all the collections absolutely distinctive from each other. It's really interesting. And then when someone studies this collection, there is a more global change that has been going through, particularly since 2000 onward, which is a very huge number of museums that have been developed with collections. I mean, private museums based on the collections. This is a very relevant thing in terms of a global issue, and due to that, and this is related with economic circumstances, with the growth of the wealthy people, with the concentration of power and financing that gives the opportunity for some individuals to have the means then to develop huge collections. And we have saw this growing number after 2000 onwards, as I said. And there is a study on private museums report that was first published in 2015, and there is another one, an up-to-date report on this study that says that after 2000 we have now more 446 new museums. This is a quite huge number of museums that are based on private collectors. This is the topic that I really would like to underline. And what is interesting, I mean, for me, that I'm a Portuguese researcher, is to understand that this huge number has none of Portuguese museums in that frame, in that huge number, as I said. So what does this mean? This means, in terms of the Portuguese perspective, means that one, there is no Portuguese art museums from private collectors, or two, there is not knowledge about this issue, internationally speaking. Well, I tend to think that there is not knowledge about this topic, internationally speaking, because if we look at what happens in terms of the art milieu in Portugal, we saw, for example, the Museu de Arte Contemporânea, CCB, just reopened in 2023. For example, we have saw the Pavilion Julião Sarmento, the huge artist that you most probably know, that opened recently. We just saw the opening of the Museu de Arte Contemporânea Armando Martins. It's a private collector with an astonishing collection, just opened in a hotel also. Just to name 3 examples in the last years, but we would have much more examples. Quetzal Art Center, Masse, we would have a Quartel in Abrantes, we would have Lima in São João da Madeira, Casa São Roque in Oporto. So, I mean, when we start looking at the Portuguese reality, we easily raise upon more than 20 new institutions who have been built upon private collections or in partnership with private collectors. So this is a point that I would like to start to discuss, because we have an international audience, so it's quite interesting to put these things in perspective and to discuss these topics, but not only, of course, because the main topic for inviting you is for you to speak about your own collection. But what I am interested in is to see your collection in this global context, you know, in these global issues, in this global pleasure to gather artworks, to assemble artworks, to live with artworks. So, who is Carlos Roque? He's not a gallerist, he's not an artist, he's a researcher. Yeah. I think it's quite interesting to see this, your background. I mean, let me check. He's an assistant researcher at the National Laboratory for Civil Engineering. So we really have a researcher and a scientist absolutely committed with the contemporary art, and he's also a teacher. He's assistant professor at Rooftop University. And if you allow me, I will not go on with your CV, otherwise we will not have time to discuss it. But the main issue why he's here is because behind his professional career, he and his family share a deep passion for contemporary art. Specifically, after 2007 onward, he and his wife Melusha and his 3 kids that now are not so kids anymore, and start acquiring contemporary art, named César Collection, and I will leave it for you to explain this acronym. And what is weird, or I don't know if it is weird or unexpected, perhaps it is more unexpected than weird, is that the way that you start collecting and the way as you proceed in collecting, which is discussing among all of you, among family, making the collecting practice a family thing, a family business. I mean, business in terms of process, because I think you have specifically ideas about collecting and business and investment. So, before starting with the first question, I would like you to share with us this acronym of your collection and the way your collection sparks. I mean, what was the sparkling for the beginning of this collection? because at this point it's a young collection, but not so young anymore. So
yeah, thank you, Adelaide. Thank you, Lisbon Art Weekend. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you all for being here too. Well, the acronym is easy to explain because as you said, I'm a researcher and I have to practice a lot with acronyms for projects, for proposals, and one day I saw that my kids' surnames are Espírito Santo from my wife, Almeida Roque, and if you put collection in Portuguese, coleção Espírito Santo Almeida Roque, it's César. So it started as a joke, but it's not that. It's not a joke anymore. So as you said, we started in 2007, and we bought. Well, we had some previous failed attempts, I would say, but we started the collection, the Caesar, in 2007 with a big drawing by Joana Vilaverde. And we started, I think as many other collectors start, in a very decorative way. So we wanted to put beautiful things on our walls, and that's how we started. And then in 2010 and 2011, we saw two amazing exhibitions that changed the way we look at art and the way we collect. The first one by Ana Vidigal, and the second by Miguel Palma, that is also here with us today, and I thank him for that. Both exhibitions at the Modern Art Center in Gulbenkian, in Lisbon, curated both by Isabel Carlos. And in fact, in that moment, we entered, I think, a new phase. So we started wanting to replicate the museum experience. And we were lucky in the first phase because we bought good works and very good works. We still have them all, and we still like them all. But in this second phase, when our youngest daughter was born, she was born in 2010, and it's this moment. And then I think that there is another moment that is important in this journey, is in 2015 when we met the first artists. The first artists that we met were João Pedro Val and Nuno Alexandre Ferreira, also close friends now. All these people are now our friends. We are lucky, very lucky in that part too. And after João Pedro and Nuno, it was Ana Vidigal, and then Miguel, and then many other artists that we met. So I think that is the moment. This third phase is when we start being collectors, at least according to my definition. And there is another important moment. More recently, in 2019, Pedro Magalhães from Balcony invited us for a collector's program in an art fair or a VIP program or something like that. And again, another very generous guy, because he invited us before we even we didn't have bought any work there at the time. And it's another important moment because since then we started visiting other collectors, and that's also really important. I think that so basically since 2007 we have assembled a collection with many or several of the most important Portuguese artists, and we have been collecting not only artworks or art, but also friends, and that's really important for us. That's the most important part for us. And as you said, I think what distinguishes more from other collectors, we have several different, there are several aspects that distinguish us, but the fact that the five of us actively participate in this collecting journey is something that is uncommon, I would say.
I would say uncommon, perhaps difficult to negotiate. This was one of the questions that I would like to ask. But before that, let me make an appointment about the acronym of your collection, César. Do you know there was a gallery in the 90s?
I know, César.
César, exactly. In a way, you are making an homage to this.
I discovered later, after there were some artists that told me there was a gallery with with that name. So I didn't know, and as I said, it started as a joke. So we were never really thinking about collecting and becoming collectors. It was something that happened. As we talked, for me, the term collector is something that many people are afraid of saying, because it can sound pretentious, or someone it's connected with luxury and lifestyle. Now, the other day I read a guy from Art Basel saying that the new generations of collectors, that they are focused on luxury and lifestyle. Art for me is not about luxury and lifestyle. So, I think that it's for us, collecting is being with the artists, and that's the most important part for us in collecting.
I would like to, I don't know, perhaps to try to understand a little bit more about the concept of a collector, because what I observe is that each collector has his own definition,
Yeah.
and the majority of the collectors, I don't know, perhaps a part of the collectors, not necessarily the majority, but a part of the collectors are indeed afraid of the definition, because the idea of a collector has a charge, a very heavy charge on it, and it's not necessarily concerned with glamour or with luxury. Perhaps is concerned with more psychological issues, like dementia, like obsession, like being pursue something in a very obsessive way, in a pathological way.
Yeah.
You know, in a very pathological way also.
Yeah, I know some of those pathological cases.
And this is quite interesting, because what does this mean? This means that the search of an artwork, the search of an artist could be a path very complex.
It's the best part of.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, okay. So for me, that is the best part of the search. Is something that I love. And talking about the definition of a collector, my definition of a collector is someone that is curious. Of course, if you're not curious, you're not doing you're decorating your home. Avid, must be avid, otherwise we'll stop. And part of the art ecosystem. And this is the thing that I think distinguish more the collectors from the others. And when I saw the title of this talk, well, I thought, how can I prepare me for this? And I thought, well, challenges. The challenge or the challenges have 2 or 3 dimensions: time, money, and space, basically. And being part of the art ecosystem, it's a question of time and money. If you have a lot of money, you don't have to spend a lot of time in the art ecosystem to be part of it, because a lot of people will go to you. If you have little money, that's my case, or our case, you must spend a lot of time in the art world. And it's in a certain sense, it's better like this. It's funny, because it's an enormous pleasure to be in this world for a lot of time. So I spend a lot of time in reading, seeing, doing things around contemporary art, and that's what makes us collectors. When we talk about collecting, you talk about that pathological part, and I know some cases of friends that I can identify with that. But some people, I think, is afraid because of the part of the money and all that stuff. And as I told you, if you talk about a collector of stamps, you will not think about glamour or snobbish guy or something like that. So why should a collector of artworks should have to arrange another word for that? For me, collector is okay, because we collect, we assemble pieces that are in a certain way, very subjective way, but they have something in common. Yeah.
And about the process, because I mean, you state that you really choose in discussion with your family, with your wife and with your kids. How come, in terms of the art experience, you are 5, so 10 hands working discussion. Which work of art should we take home?
Yeah.
How does this works? Because it's sometimes so difficult, even for a couple, to make a choose, to make a point about an artwork. So artworks develops a lot of feelings, it's a very sensitive thing too. So how can you raise a common ground to choose to pick an artwork or an artist when you, of course, although you are a family, you have your own singularity. How does these discussions work? I would like to understand a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay, so it evolved over time, of course. In 2007, my eldest kids were in their mother's belly, so they had no opinion. And in the beginning, we started, well, I think it's better to explain how we don't have a strategy or something like that, but we have a method. And some years ago, a friend of mine that is also a collector, a very famous collector, a Belgian collector, sent me an email. We talk a lot through emails, and he sent me an email saying, "I have here a very good opportunity for you." This was after we met. We met in Madrid, in Arco Madrid, and he said, "Well, I have here a great opportunity. You should buy. It's a Mexican artist that is living in Portugal. He will leave to another country, so you should, buy some of his works. I will buy 2 pieces, and you can buy." Yeah. And in that moment, I felt the need to write, to explain him our method. And I think that's something that it's important to explain, because we have a set of rules that we have developed throughout these years and that have evolved. In this method, well, there are 6 rules. The first one is that we have an annual budget, and it's a very limited annual budget. We spend 2,500 euros per year. And
25?
2,500. It's less than what this friend of mine, and in the beginning you said that their collectors are all different. My friend Alain Savet, a Belgian collector, spends more per day. And it's true. And I told him, well, our first rule is that we spend 2,500 euros annually. So with this very limited budget, we buy a piece a year. And our third rule, and basically it's because we prefer to buy a good piece, which is really difficult with 2,500 euros, but anyway, we prefer to buy one instead of several small or from very young artists or something like that. And then we, at the time, I told him we only buy Portuguese living artists. It's not true anymore. The city is much more diverse, fortunately, so we buy artists living in Portugal today. And this is our third rule. The fourth is that we never buy art at auctions. Even in this small scale, we prefer to support the artists, the galleries, rather than other collectors. And I know that it's important to have auctions and all of that, but we prefer supporting artists. The fifth rule is more a fact than a rule, but in fact, today we only buy works from artists that we know in person, and in fact that we like. We are very lucky, again, because for me the best Portuguese artists are also people that we like. but anyway, we only buy those. And finally, the sixth rule is that we never buy two works from the same artist in a row. So of course we buy it from from the same artist, but not in a row. So, if looking at these numbers and these rules, you can say, okay, so this guy has 18 works. No, it's not like that. Sometimes we break some of these rules without breaking the first one. The most important one is the first one, and for that you must ask the artists why. But the artists are really generous with us. So we have, as I told you, around 120 artworks, and we bought around 30. So I don't know why. We have a lot of kids, and they started really young, so probably the artists like the big families. But in fact, that is something that should be explained. And as I said before, there were two major exhibitions that changed our lives. The one by Ana Vidigal and the one by Miguel Palma. And curiously, these two artists are the most represented artists in our collection today.
Do you have artwork from that exhibitions?
From that exhibitions, I don't think so. Miguel can tell you. I don't think so. From Ana, no. The first work that we bought from Ana was a rabbit that we bought at Saint John's, the 111 gallery, the one by that Rui Brito should be here, and we bought it. It was with him that we bought this work. And it's funny because 10 years after that exhibition, I went with Anna to my youngest daughter's school, primary school, and it was amazing to see the kids. We showed them that work. I went there with work covered, and when I showed them, I thought, well, they will not be really enthusiastic, but they were.
When you start, you did not predict you would be a collector, would become a collector, wouldn't you?
No.
It was something that.
But for me it's important to say that if in this discussion around for me collecting is not a matter of scale. Of course it's important, as everyone knows, but it's being part of the system.
What do you mean it's not a matter of scale?
I mean that if you have if I had 20 artworks, I would still be a collector because I'm part of the system. When you invited me, you didn't know how many artworks I want. Yeah, and it's the same when I showed or me and my eldest daughter, we showed our collection in young collector circle like 2 or 3 years ago or 4, I don't know. No one asked us how many works do you have. Of course, it's no. Yeah, but it's.
But I'm to know.
Yeah. But it's never. If, for instance, my friend Alain Servet, I don't know how many works he owns. I know that he buys around 100 per year. So
for someone who studied collections, the number is very important. You know, there's
I know
that it's different to study a collection with 150 and a collection with 1,000 or 4,000, for example. You know,
of course,
it's absolutely distinct.
I don't. I'm not speaking about the collections. I'm speaking about the collectors. And I know, as I told you, I read your PhD thesis, 700 pages, and I read it. About four very different collectors. One of them is Rui's father, and it's really interesting to see very different approaches. And as you said, I'm not from the art world. I'm not a dealer, a gallerist, or anything like that. And
but you are, because the collectors belong to the art world.
Sure, but I'm just a collector. Yeah, of course. But,
of
course, but I'm just a collector. I'm not a No, just in the sense that I'm not a gallerist or a curator or something like that.
What I mean is that the collectors, as I start the introduction, nowadays they play a huge relevance in the art system.
I agree.
And sometimes perhaps a role that perhaps tend to make gray the role of other agents. I mean, sometimes it's even a very prominent role
I agree.
in the art system.
And that can be a problem.
And that can also be a problem. So it's not just the collector. The collector has indeed a very key role in the art system and are absolutely determinant for help the artist to survive, for help to boost
Of course.
the art system, to boost the
and in that sense, the scale is really important, of course. So if I think there is place for everyone, in small collectors, big collectors, guys that for who someone that spends less than $1 million per year is not a collector. I know some that think like that. Or if you buy less than 100 pieces or 50, but there's room for everybody. I think that the other day I saw a documentary about Herman Dale, you know, the Belgian collector. It's I recommend to all of you. It's the collection that does not exist. It's amazing. And Herman Dale has a very good definition. I don't know it, but it's something like a collector is a good pair of eyes that sees before the others write about it. The historians like you or the curators. So that's the role of that's a very good definition in an amazing collection that he built and that he gave to or donated to MoMA, a big part of it, and it's an incredible story of a very minimalistic way of looking at the collector's role. And,
indeed, some collectors sometimes they enhance art history
Yeah.
in terms that what they collect will be the taste of the future.
Yeah,
That,
and that's something that he says there. That when he bought those works by Lawrence Weiner or so many other of the conceptual,
for example.
yeah, when he bought them, they were not beautiful, and and he said
they
that
anticipate the taste.
yeah, and he said beautiness is something that is bad because everything changes to beautiful things, even those that when we bought them they were not beautiful, and it's another interesting debate because. As you know better than me, but several collectors, if they like what they see, they will not buy. It's not my case. For me, collecting is about passion and connoisseurship, and for me, I seek visual pleasure and intellectual discovery. So both things. If I look just for intellectual discovery, I will read books.
What about the idea of elective affinities? There is something that is very common among collectors because of the inevitability between the artworks that collectors sometimes elect to justify that those artworks really must be in the collection. How do you feel it? Because once again, you have this challenge of choosing with a lot of discussion. So how is your process in terms of the collective?
I forget to talk about the process. Well, we annually we buy an artwork, sometimes more, as I said, and we have the luck of many artists gives us a lot of artworks. But the process evolved over time. As I was saying, when my kids were little, I tried to find artworks that they could relate with. And we bought that rabbit by Ana Vidigal. We bought a photo of another rabbit by Gabriela Branch. And they went to the galleries with us, and for them it was something that they could understand, or they could look and think of things that make sense to them. And it evolved over time. And now when we want to buy an artwork, I'm the easiest one. I must,
really?
Yeah, because I think that we collect, and also answering those affinities, we collect artists rather than artworks. I don't like to discuss the best. The collectors have the idea of the best artwork from that artist, and every collector thinks that he bought the best work from that artist. I prefer to discuss the artists.
You know, just a small parenthesis. Panza di Piumo used to say that he bought only the best from the artists, and the best period from the artists were the beginning of their careers.
Yeah, that's also something that I disagree. I think that, and many people likes to buy emerging artists, and of course it's really important to have emerging artists, someone to support them, of course.
So it's about the idea of the emergency, it's about the idea of the creativity.
I know, but what I think is if you look at the good artists, the very good ones, they evolve a lot over time. So when you think, well, I'm buying for 1,000 euros and this will, in 5 years the value will duplicate or triplicate or something like that. It's not the same artist. It's like when you buy, before coming here, I went to a wine store close because I had time. I was waiting for you, for you in the room. And when we, for instance, a port wine, that's something that everyone knows. When you buy a 20-year-old port wine or a 30-year-old port wine, you are buying time, right? You can buy a bottle today and wait 30 years. But if you buy a 30-year-old bottle, you are buying time. And it's more expensive because of that. In an artist, if you are buying the same artist, he's 30 years old, instead of 20, it's more expensive, of course. You are buying time of his life. For me, it's like that. Of course, for me, the best artists. Not, and when you look at artists around 20 years or something like that, many are incredible. But unfortunately, I'm a guy with 50-year-old guy, so I would like to be younger. But one of the advantages of being old is that you already saw a lot of emerging artists that are no longer artists. So I have some very good examples of amazing artists that all very young artists that were already consolidated artists. And I can give you the example of Fernando Cruz, also a very close friend and an amazing artist. I saw him for the first time close to here in his father's space, I don't know how, Action House I think it was, and he had a small room there, and I was amazed because an emerging artist for me is something that is trying to find his voice, and with 20-something years he already had his voice, and for me that's amazing, but it's really rare. So of course there are amazing young artists. I'm not sure if that's the best phase of, well, I'm not sure, no, I think the best phase of an artist is not in the beginning, even if many times it's amazing. I talked about Gabriela Branch. The first exhibitions by Gabriel were amazing, but look what he has done in Rialto now. It's even more. So for me, and if you look, for instance, to Ana Jota, that is almost 80 years old, she's an incredible artist, so, and a young artist. So the age, fortunately, is not for me.
The age now, but I would like to take the idea of time that you pick, because I think the idea of buying time is quite interesting in terms of thinking about what is collecting, and because collectors use their collections sometimes, I mean not sometimes, every time, as a way to go through time and to register his mark, his name, besides their human time. What does this mean? This means that of every single man will die, but the collection will stay.
Yeah.
So the collection will keep the name over time, through time. So the idea of time is quite interesting because of this double sense about collecting and what represents in terms of heritage, in terms of going through the time. And the other idea that I would like to hear a little bit more is about the idea of collecting friends, because it's it's I mean, I understand the joke that you are making, not only works but also friends. But do they like to be collected?
Well,
do they like to be seen? I mean,
when I say collecting friends, it's a fact more than I don't ask them if they like to be collected. But,
there's someone here.
Yeah. But the example of Miguel Palma is an excellent example because we are really close friends. We were talking about that. Miguel and Liv that are there. He's an amazing artist. And when we went to his exhibition, in fact, I'm a researcher and I'm an engineer, and my wife she's a lawyer. So, and we didn't know anyone from the art world at the time. So, for us, everything was new, and we were totally ignorant. And so this when we became friends of amazing artists like Miguel or Ana or Fernão or Gabriela Branch or Ana Jota, Ana Fidigal, it's really incredible because these are really special people. For me, artists are in another dimension. That is for us. And I will steal now the words of Dorothy Vogel, another famous collector, a proletarian collector, the Vogels. And she said that knowing and understanding the artists was the best part of the journey. And for the five of us, I'm sure that's the best part. If I had to choose between our friendships and our collection, I love our collection, I really love, but I would choose our friendships. So, So when I say this, it's because it's true. We met them all over this period, and it's the best part. We have dinners with artists, with the gallerists, with curators. We go to openings, we go to exhibitions, we go to studio visits. The five of us, and many times even if now they are young adults. But we keep going, the five of us, or sometimes four, sometimes three, the number, it depends, but like every week we have things like that. Last week we went to Braga for João Pedro Val and Alexandre Ferreira opening. 2 weeks ago we had lunch with Gabriela Branch. 3 weeks ago we went to Hajnur house with Miguel Palma, so with a writer and art critic, with one of our best friends and artists, and talk about art. Every day I talk about art with two other friends and collectors, Guilherme Godinho and José Costa Rodrigues. Almost every week I talk with Alain Servet. I sent him a message before coming here about Rosalia, you know, the singer. So this is the best part of it. So I must stress this because it's for the five of us. The other day I also told you my son wanted to cut his hair and paint his hair. I was shocked, and but then he found a way to do it. He asked João Pedro Val and Nuno Alexandre Ferreira to do it, and I was waiting for the certificate of authenticity. But it was so we were there like 2 hours looking at it, and then we went for a dinner with them, and that's the best part. So when I say collect friends, I'm talking about this part. That, in fact, is the best one, even if I love the things we have at home.
Let me make you perhaps a provocation. Do you know Wim Delbois?
No.
The tattoo, the artwork tattoo in the skin?
No.
Was bought by a collector because you were reminding me about hair of João Pedro Val. And I remember
that tattoo is by João Pedro?
No. The tattoo was bought by a German collector.
Okay.
And we will get it when Tim, the singer, will die.
Okay.
The tattoo is from Wim Delbois, and we have the compromise of showing the artwork, this tattoo, this back, 3 times every year in museums. I saw it in Basel.
Okay, that's great.
It's quite surprising because it makes us to reflect about the boundaries about collecting.
Yeah, and that reminds me of another of my friend José Costa Rodrigues that I met because of a work that he has by I don't know if he's Jaffa. It's a famous artist that can only be seen one day per year. It's only on the 15th of September. It's about the Lehman Brothers, and so it's the day that the bank went down, and so and it can only be seen that day. And we started our friendship not because of that, but because of an exhibition by Sara André about the several collectors. And when you were saying that, thinking about after we die, what it's true. I am terrified about the idea of dying, but the collection is something that will stay, and I'm sure that our kids love the collection too. And I was really happy when the book of the Fine Art Collectors book by Sara Andrea was published, because I come from that part. I'm a researcher, and you didn't tell me all my CV, but I'm also an editor, and for me it's really important, that part. So being part of that book, the five of us, was significant because also of that, because the book will be there. So instead of buying just one book, we bought four for the kids to when they have their houses, they will have also that book. So that idea of something that will remain, it's something that I like. Yeah.
I would just make a point about the idea of sharing that you have mentioned before, because the idea of sharing from the collections is quite relevant in terms, I mean, it's the beginning of the museum history, the sharing to put the collections into the public domain, it's the beginning of the history of the museum, so it's quite relevant. And as I mentioned before, private collectors have been opened their own museums and have been changing the art world, and have been changing all the panorama about collecting, about the contemporary art, with a lot of challenge that they brought with these initiatives. And I would like to ask you, how do you see this idea of sharing from a private collector perspective, of course, taking, for example, the example of the Vogel case, because they have bought in a very modest and discreet way a huge collection, huge in terms of the quality of the artworks, not in terms of scale of the artworks.
Yeah, but also scale. It was like 5,000 works.
Yeah, in terms of numbers, because the artworks were very small. Were very domestically, I would say. I would like to ask you, do you think this case are more or less inspiring in terms of sharing and in terms of the idea of the philanthropy that sometimes is associated with the collector to put their collections into the public sphere?
Yeah, I think there are several things there that are really interesting for me. Of course, sharing the collection is something that every time we are asked to do it, we do it, of course. So the first time we lent a work, it was like in 2018, I guess. It was a sculpture by Musa Paradisíaca. We bought it, and a week later it was gone. And I wasn't really happy, but I think it's something that a collector must do. It's not a question of should. I think must share what he has with a broader audience. So this is something that I believe, and loaning is something that we every time someone asks us for that, we do it. Those examples are really inspiring. Dorothy and Herbert Vogel are an amazing case. You should all Google it, because a librarian and a guy that works in the post office built an amazing collection in a very small, tiny apartment in New York, and it's an incredible story, and it's really inspiring. They didn't have kids, so they had more money to spend on art, but it's really funny to see how things evolved over time, because Many people thought they were greedy. Even if in the end they gave everything to the National Gallery and several other museums around the States. So those cases like Hermandale, like the Vogels, like I have one of my favorite books is a really small one by Eugene Schwartz, you probably know, Confessions of a Poor Collector. And it's funny because he's not a poor collector, but those rules are amazing. He was invited for a conference to show his collection, and instead of showing the collection, he wrote his rules, much crazier and much more rules than we have, and with a much larger budget. But those I read everything about collectors, everything I can. So and those books, and there are not many books around private collectors. Eugene Schwartz, Erling Kage, the Norwegian guy, that has a book with also with the poor on the title. I don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't remember. Ursula Hauser is a very interesting book about from Hauser and Wirth. Now I bought a book about the Menil couple. Amazing. And I recommend the Collect Wisely podcast by Sean Kelly. It's also amazing, with a lot of big collectors. And it's really interesting in all of those cases, or the documentaries, is to compare. And we are all very different, but there are similarities, and those similarities are really interesting. And if possible, also talk to collectors and share. I think that sharing is something really important here. I talk to this is something that I do. I don't know. I have no explanation for that. For the artists, I have an explanation. I love artists. So if I see an artist that I love, I don't care, and I go there and talk to them. Today it's easy because, well, we are known. But in the beginning, no one knew us. So, but talking to everyone that looks interesting or interested is something that I always do, and I try to share information and some knowledge eventually, but information with a lot of people that are interested. And if I if I read something about AI, I will send it, for instance, to Gabriela Branch. If I read about conceptual art, I will send it to Nunes Ferreira. If I have something about climate, I will send to Mané Pacheco. And this is something that, and also of course to collectors, like I said, José Costa Rodrigues and Guilherme Godinho, we talk every day, but also Armando Cabral is also a very interesting collector, Armando and Maria João of Rialto, or José Carlos Santana Pinto, with whom I have a recent friendship, but those kind of relations include also sharing those works that I love and that I will not buy. If I see something that I love, and of course I buy much less than I would like to, I will share it with collectors and art lovers that possibly can buy them, and I like to do that too. So sharing is something that, well, it's not, as I said, and as we talked, it's not about strategies, but it's a practice. It's a common practice for me, and I do it almost every day because every day I read something about art. Yeah.
Thank you. Me too. with different purpose.
Yeah.
I think we are almost finishing, but before opening, I don't know if the organization allow me to give you the word, but I would like to make a comment and then to make the final question for you also to comment. The first one is about the idea of the networks that you mentioned, concerned with the sharing information, not only sharing the artworks that my question was about, but also to share the information that is absolutely absolutely crucial for anyone who wants to really to collect. You mentioned Portuguese collectors. I would like to ask you if you have in that network, if you have foreign collectors, beside of course the one who make you to create the rules for your own collection. That is because we have here an audience of foreign people who are or visiting or living or wherever in Lisbon, and I would like to know if the Portuguese collectors are articulated with foreign collectors or not so. I would like to hear a little bit about you, and then connected with that, I would like to have your opinion about the panorama of these new museums, and how do you see this? Should we be very heavy? I mean, we as Portuguese normally are very heavy. Always with a lot of problems. Not so hopeful. But in terms of institutional private collections, we cannot have a dark perspective, because on the contrary, and I would like you to share with us how do you see this institutional panorama and also the private panorama, because you mentioned Armando Cabral. It's absolutely a private project that has Ando is a very interesting person, because he circulates a lot in the art milieu, his connection with Serralves Museum, etc. So he really has an institutional role, and I would like to hear you about you as a collector. How do you see this milieu? And then I think I will open the discussion.
So, regarding the connection to other collectors, mainly there are Portuguese collectors. Why? Because we are here. But the last, in fact, the last collector we visited was in Istanbul. So it was Vera Coronio, I think. Merve can, Vera Coronio was the last collector that we visited. But there are others that some I know. Well, I don't know their names. I must go to WhatsApp to check the names. But sometimes we talk. Some Belgian couples, Spanish, Alejandro Lázaro, it's another guy that I talk with, and that there are some, and talking about this, I remember one thing that for me it's also really important, and my kids are not here, so I can say it. I spend a lot of time on social media. and this is being recorded, but it's true. I spend a lot of time not only seeing artworks, because every collector will say the same. You must see a lot. Training your eyes, it's the most important part of it, but also talking to a lot of people. On Instagram, you can talk to everyone in the world. I can give you examples. I talked with Mark Spiegler, the former Art Basel director, or with the Greek collector Darkos Giano, I think. I already talked with him because of one work by Miguel Palma, similar to the boat he has, and we talked about it. So this is something that is possible today, thanks to these social networks. And so. With those collectors, we are. The other day, I talked with a gallerist from New York that he saw that I was putting some likes on works by an artist, and I don't even know that he was his gallerist, and he contacted me. So these kind of things happen a lot, and they can include collectors from other countries. I think it was like 2 years ago, Miguel had the visit of like 20 Spanish collectors, and it was because Eva Ruiz, an art advisor from Spain, she asked me, she told me, well, who should I visit? I have some places here in Lisbon to visit, and others in Porto. What do you recommend me? And I told him, oh, well, you can stop in the middle and go to Santarém, visit Miguel Palma's house. It's an incredible space, and she agreed after going there. So those kind of things happened, but of course, feed those relations. It's well, I talk to a lot of people, and I have to work, so so it's not easy as to have. But of course, it can happen. In the case of Alain, he's one of the smartest guys I know, and, so it helps a lot because we talk about science, we talk about art. He has a different approach to it, but a very interesting one. So he's the guy that always looks at the content, and I think that every collector needs mentorship, and he is the most or one of my mentors, I would say. Not with the same kind of approach, but I learn a lot with him. So it's something that I think it's important, and it can happen or not. I don't choose if it is Portuguese or regarding the other part of the museums and the institutional part. Well, I think it's great to have places like Macam. When I tried to enter Macam for the first time, I couldn't because there was a huge queue with a lot of people, and that's great because when during COVID, when we went to museums, we were the only one there, or galleries. So, and if you go there now, it will be almost the same, not during Lisbon Art Weekend, but after it. So it's great to have more people interested in art. I already went to Macam, and it's great to have an amazing collection like that shared with the people, even if you have to pay in that case. But it's great to have that amazing collection like Berardo collection. It's incredible. It's an amazing collection. So it's great to have these places, or for instance Rialto, a totally different approach, and that is the part when I say try to visit the collectors and try to understand them. It's really fun because Armando Cabral is a very special guy, and Armando and Maria João, I think they found their place with Rialto. Doing what they are doing is the way for them to collect, and it's again a different way, a different approach. So, or visiting the house of José Carlos Santana Pinto is amazing. He's a curator, and so all this experience you can learn a lot, and it's that mentorship that it's really important.
Thank you so much, Carlos. You have talked about the commitment that collectors have with artists and with art. And before finish, let me just say that it's really a pity not to have here Rui Brito with us, because Rui Brito inherited is a collector besides a gallerist, and inherited a very relevant art collection. A private art collection in Portugal is one of the best art collections, and I just want to give this note, because if you want to know at least a part of the collection, you will have the opportunity to see the CAM, Centro de Arte Manuel Brito, the Manuel Brito Art Center, which is in Campo Grande, where the gallery first opening in 1964. And it's quite a very interesting experience, because you have there the history of the modern and contemporary art, because the gallery had worked with some of the most relevant artists from Portugal. So I just want to leave here this note. So if you want to have this experience, now they have an exhibition on Eduardo Reis, a very beautiful painter, very surrealistic, very interesting. I mean, if you want, you can go there.
Just repeat the name of the museum.
Camp, Manuel de Brito Art Center.
It's in Campo Grande.
Campo Grande. Galeria 111.
Yeah.
111 Gallery.
Oh, the gallery itself, I've been.
There are two spaces.
The art center is now settled in the former gallery because it was for 12 years.
Yeah.
It was in Oeiras. The camp was based in Oeiras, but due to lack of agreement between the collectors and the municipality, the collection went back to collectors, and now they are being exhibit in the former gallery. So the gallery has two spaces, a larger one where Brito makes its program, and the oldest, the historical gallery, that is now devoted to this art center, and now you have this Eduardo Luiz exhibition. So I just want to leave here this note. And then I open if anyone would like to ask something to Carlos, or even
Or
to
to
me,
you,
of
of
course,
course.
if I can help. Please, I have.
Yes. Hi everyone. My name is Elmira. Thank you for. I know I came late, but there was something that you mentioned that caught my eye in terms of just the AI. So as a collector, how is like AI influencing the way that you perceive art or that you collect now? Like, are you collecting differently now with the digital art world that's coming into place, and it's like the parallel of like.
Yeah. Well, at least for now, it's not. It's not different. In fact, I think that it's important, of course, to the contemporary arts should show us where we are now. So AI is everywhere, and there are amazing works that are using AI. And I talked about Gabriela Branch, and he started working with AI a couple of years ago, and his paintings are already using oil paintings, but they used AI in their preparation, and now he has an incredible exhibition at Rialto with a small rat, and that also uses AI. So I'm interested, of course, in those works and in that field, but it's not my focus. Is not on. I use AI a lot in my work, and even regarding art, I use AI when I'm studying, researching. I use it, but more in that part of my collector activity rather than in terms of the works that we buy. We can buy, but it's a possibility. I would love to have a painting by Gabriel, but if one day if I can, I will have it, with or without AI. I don't care.
He has a question?
Thank you so much for this conversation. My name is Daria, and I'm curious to know about your thoughts on the future of collecting and the new collectors that are coming. What could be different in terms of like this new generation of collectors? Do you think it could be like really different, or it will some aspects that will change? Just your thoughts.
Well, I think that it will be different, of course. Thank you. It's always different, but and as Adelaide already said, there are so many different ways of collecting. Thinking about the ones that are closer to me, my kids, they have three totally different approaches. So if I talk about my son, he looks for visual pleasure. He likes to draw, so he looks for things that are amazing in that sense. If I look at my daughters, they are more conceptual. So I'm more like me and more like my wife, I think. But I don't know if reading about it, as I said, about the luxury and lifestyle approach, I hate it. So it's not that I don't like luxury and lifestyle, but I think that, and of course, it's great to be in beautiful places and go to beautiful parties. I already went to amazing houses full of artworks and everything like that. That is amazing. But if it's just that, it's not. Being with, I can give you, for me, the best example of an amazing day. Being with Miguel and Liv, Miguel is next to you. Being at his home, and since 2021, I searched for this conversation. We started going to their house in Santarém. They moved to Santarém, and we spent there some weekends since then, fortunately. And it's amazing. It's like waking up in the middle of a museum. You know, that's the best part of it. And I believe that this will be like that for my generation, for my kids' generation. So if it's, and I don't like to sound like an old guy saying that the best were the older ones, so you will not catch me on that. So I believe that will be very good collectors now, and 20 years from now, there will be people interesting, and of course those that are not that interesting, but they are also very relevant and important. As I said, we must have people liking and loving and sharing art. So there is room for everybody. Unfortunately, it's not like football or something that everyone likes, so we have plenty of room for everyone. And I believe that the next generations, we will have very good collectors and people interested, art lovers, people interested in art. Of course, with different approaches, using more AI or liking more digital art than I like, but it's my taste and the things that I connect to, and rather than being younger or older. I believe in that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the talk. In terms of reoccurring motifs in your collection, you mentioned the intellectual discovery and the visual aesthetic pleasure. Yeah. So, out of that, looking at your collection, what exactly do you think stays as a motif?
That's really a very interesting question, because thank you. Our collection, it's in that sense, it's also different from many others, because when we read about collections and collectors, normally the collection reflects the collector. Here we are 5, and we have a lot of people that are so generous, that gives us what they think we like. So we have, I can give you an example. Miguel is here. We have an amazing photo that has some interventions by Miguel. It's part of a series of works that Gulbenkian has some, and Serralves also has some. It's about the Technical University of Lisbon, where I did my PhD. And now my son is there too. So, and he gave me for a birthday, like when I was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So that kind of connections, it's part of our family, and it reflects our family, because he knows me better than many other people. So in many cases, it's like this. When I look at those works that we buy, I think many of them have words. I love poetry, I love words, I love reading, and I think that might reflect on what we buy. But as I said, normally the process is I choose the artist, and then we go there, and the rest of the family chooses the artwork. It's more or less like this. It depends, of course. Like 2 or 3 years ago, we bought a work by Mané Pacheco at Arco Madrid, at Balcony. And before buying it, it was really funny because we invited Manet for dinner in Madrid like 3 months before the fair, and we didn't know that we would buy the work. And in the day that we bought the work, she went for dinner with us. So it was a celebration, even if it was prepared 3 months before. But before we bought it, we called our kids and told them, we are thinking of buying a work by Mané Pacheco. And it was a decision on that moment. And they were crazy. They were really happy. They was like, are you kidding? So, in that case, it was easy. I don't remember if it was me or my wife but it was a common decision, and it's really common to work like that. Sometimes we go to a studio or to a gallery, and in those cases, well, this is the artist, and for me it's okay. I have several works that we can choose, and normally it's or by common agreement or by majority of we are 5, so not a number that has the problem of not coming to an agreement.